themselves the elite.
Better than you, and you know it.
If not us, who? And if not now, when?
We don't care about race or gender or sex or religion. If you're an elite athlete, we want you. Change the world.
We are going to change the whole universe!
This is what you call a paradigm shift.
He saw what wrestling was and realized what it could be.
All Elite Wrestling!
For the 19th time, it's Monday morning, and you know what that means. It's time for the next chapter of the only professional wrestling podcast that is changing the world every week. This is Seeing the Elite, an AEW podcast. I am your host, Bryce Reed. I am joined by my friend, my co-host, my tag team partner, Mr. Jonathan Davis.
How's it going, buddy?
We are officially on the road to All Out. 5 weeks between us and Chicago. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Jonathan and I are two friends, fans, lovers of professional wrestling who are here every single Monday morning with all the latest news from All Elite Wrestling for the foreseeable future. This is not a sports entertainment show. It's an entertaining sports show supported by fans like you from all over the world on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy. Too sweet.
Of course. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite. Twitter @Seeing the Elite. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite to join our Discord server and chat with AEW fans from all over the world. As always, JD on the time codes, and we have a super massive week to talk about. Without hyperbole, one of the biggest weeks we've ever had in terms of information about the shape of things to come. And we've got so much to kind of talk about on this subject. We're not even going to really talk about how it's going to affect this show, although people from the Discord server know there will be effects on our show, on our workflow, as a result of this, and what we have coming down the pipe. But
They'll just have to tune in to find out what happens.
We'll be more upfront about that when we
figure that shit out.
Getting closer. We have so much to talk about before then that we didn't really want to bloat this particular show out. But man, super massive this week, both sort of in terms of the story that we're talking about and sort of the way the show is set up. And we've got a lot of really exciting things to talk about. But first, we want to start with this week a series of quotes, because taking one quote and trying to talk about it in context is difficult. So let's start here. Quote, "I think there's an expectation. It's purely been built by them. My silence to some fans means something. They're trying to read the tea leaves, but there's nothing to read. I even feel like talking about it may feel like putting some sort of negative slant on it, but I'm really not. The fact is, I know that they've teased me ad nauseum, and if anyone is going to get mad, it's at me because I don't show up. Well then, I don't know what to tell you. That's one of those things that's none of my business. They do videos where they talk about me. They're constantly talking about me in the media, and again, maybe this sounds like I'm badgering them, but I'm not. It's just something that happens. I'm a popular guy to talk about, but I'm not doing interviews talking about them. If people ask me about it, I say no. I won't be there. The last thing I got, a text from Cody, and again, I almost don't even know how to reply to them sometimes, because if I reply, they do interviews and are like, oh yeah, I just talked to Punk. I'm kind of damned if I do and damned if I don't. I always think if somebody wants to do business with me, they can come talk to me. Texting offers isn't really a way to do good business, at least. I'm not the dude who sat on a stage in Vegas 8 years ago. I'm not the dude that left WWE. I'm not that guy. That was 5 years ago, Phil. I'm a different dude now. People still have that connotation like, oh, he hates WWE. And it's just like, no, I've let that all go. And I've let that all go so long ago. But there are people that hold on to that. They still think of me or want me to be who I was. I'm not who I was yesterday. This is my journey. This is my odyssey. CM Punk on Seeing the Elite. In an interview for Sports Illustrated. A lot to dissect here. I think the biggest thing is somebody's fucking lying at this point.
Everyone's fucking lying at this point, dude. This is like this it's all the same shit, dude. It's all they're all fucking wrestlers. They're working everyone into a frenzy because this drives up ticket sales to every portion of it.
Yeah.
So my thing about this is so the reason why everybody has an expectation that Punk's coming back is because he builds that expectation. Sure. He keeps fucking with people. He keeps teasing it. He keeps doing shit that are training people that, oh yeah, he's coming back. It just depends on when.
Right.
Now, it's also Punk, and he may never have that expectation. He just likes fucking with people.
Mm. Yeah, he's responsible. The guys from the Elite are responsible to a certain extent too, but the big thing I mean when somebody's lying is that he talks here about never having been approached in person. Tony has gone on record a couple of times saying I met him in person and we talked and
yeah. Tony said it, Cody said it, and the Bucks have said it. So I'm really kind of looking at like, okay, Punk, you're lying because you don't want to. Because you're doing the same shit you always do. Like, but it's obvious. Like, we know Tony Khan is not going to lie about this.
Or he. I mean, like, I don't know enough to know if anybody's telling the truth or not. I just think Punk has more of a reason to lie than Tony Khan does about.
Yeah, this. Because it serves no purpose for Tony to lie at this point. In the future, yes, but like him, and especially about this topic, him saying, "Yeah, I met Punk. We talked. We had a cool conversation." That serves no purpose of lying about it.
Right.
The Bucks and BTE fucking with people with their teasing, that's fucking with people. And it's funny as shit because you and I both watched Twitter and Reddit lose their goddamn minds with that little checklist thing that they had in last week's episode of Being the Elite.
Yeah, or a couple weeks back, yeah.
Yeah, people lost their shit.
And
continue to lose their shit because they're like, oh, they had October 2nd on that list. Like, dude,
it was heavily rumored at that point. So
it's like, of course. I saw one thing. It was like, oh, of course, October 2nd. They knew about it the whole time. I was like, yeah, of course they did.
Yes,
they've known about this date for probably close to 6 months now. But there's these weird things called non-disclosure agreements where you can't say shit.
Yeah. The last paragraph is what paints Punk as like kind of delusional into his own fucking like part in this story. And we're going to talk about what Cody said in response to this, but Punk talks about, he says, I'm not that dude that sat down on stage in Vegas 8 years ago. And I understand he built the CM Punk name and he owns that name. He can use that name, but it's the name of the wrestling character that he played on television. If he doesn't want people to think that he's related to that wrestling character anymore, why does he still call himself CM Punk? If he wants people to think that he's a new man, that he's Phil, right? Don't call yourself by your wrestling name.
Yeah, this is not a hard thing to do. It's like I understand the point of building, you have to have two personalities, essentially, but it's very easy to separate them.
Well, that's if you're still working.
If you're not working.
Right. He expects people to separate himself from this character, but he's still going by this. And I would get it if the character went by his name, like Cody Rhodes or something like that. Like, that's his fucking name.
Or
But
MJF.
right.
Shit like that. Like, where you're using your actual name.
He could just go by his real name.
Yeah.
And he doesn't. It's like, like, I just don't have a lot of sympathy for, like, Terry Bollea coming out and being like, man, why can't I call myself Hulk Hogan without people expecting me to say brother and wear the red and yellow? It's like, because that's what fucking Hulk Hogan does, bro.
But at the same point, like, Hulk is smart enough to know this shit.
Right.
Like, Hulk's an idiot, and we've proven this countless times, but he's also smart enough to know, like, if I'm going to say Hulk, wear red and yellow and have a bandana on and say, hey, I'm Hulk Hogan, he has to
talk about my 10-inch penis, and
he has to fulfill the, that personality, that aspect, all of those connotations that have been built, because that's who he is when he's Hulk. When he's Terry Bollea, he's Terry Bollea. He's a different person. It's different. So Punk is just he's very fucking delusional at this point. It's getting ridiculous, and it's going to continue for the next 5 weeks, and then actually probably for the next 7 weeks, because the weeks after All Out, if Punk doesn't show up and isn't signed like I'm figuring, he's going to be on Twitter trolling people.
Yeah, it's just weird, man. And I don't want people to think I don't love his wrestling character or whatever, that I wouldn't like to see him. I mean, I would, but that comment just doesn't make any sense to me.
No,
he would be like, why
doesn't.
don't people understand that I've, like, let go of my resentment and that, like, I've moved on? And it's like, because you're still going under, you want people to think you're a new man,
Dude,
but
with
like
the
you're
same
going
name.
by your character name.
Yeah. The really weird part about this is, like, say Punk doesn't come back, he has this weird obsession with trolling people. And that's fine if you do you, whatever you want to do. But when you're trolling to this level, you're just becoming a sadist at this point. You're not being funny and ironic. You're just being a dick.
Well,
and that's him,
sure,
but it still is like, dude, let it go.
I'm sure he gets it back too. The problem is I only see it from what he's tweeting out, not what he's getting.
That's all we ever see, because there's what we are given, because we don't see his DMs and all that stuff. But it's also like, okay, cool. Do you feel better about yourself for doing this?
Cody's response on Twitter was weird and has sort of led a lot of people to still live in the this is a work camp, which I don't know where I land on it right now. And I wouldn't even care to say where I land on it right now. But Cody's response was, I think he was misquoted. I know one of us had met with him in person, and yes, I texted him plenty when we couldn't connect on the actual phone, but not a contracted offer. I wouldn't be surprised if he went back to WWE. Regardless, great wrestler and guy, doors open if he wants it. The thing that's really setting people off is I wouldn't be surprised if he went back to WWE. And I get that because it seems... It's like when he called Sean Spears a good hand and they black out right after that. Like it seems out of place inserted into this other thing that he's saying, right?
Yeah.
And I'll agree with that. It does seem like a weird comment to make, especially if you're trying to be diplomatic. But I don't know, man.
I think he's just I'm sure there's we don't have all the insight here, but there's also the point of, even with everything that Cody does know, he's tired of dealing with it. So he's giving this diplomatic answers like, yeah, man, I don't know what, door's always open for him, whatever he wants to do.
Right.
That kind of a thing. Building upon that, they also said he tweeted Stephen Amell the same things, like, hey, dude, door's open for you if you want to come back. I know you're filming up your final season, so
right.
I'm fine with that too.
Well, they had made because they shot that photo this past week that looked like for TV Guide or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And they did a short interview where they
that
had
weird photo shoot.
Yeah, it looked weird. It just looked fucking weird. They had it was like a weird family photo mixed with like a sitcom photo.
Mixed with like this weird company professional, here's the board of executives photo. Yeah, it was like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
But also Michael Nagasawa's there.
Yeah.
They did an interview and someone had asked about Stephen Amell and they were like, yeah, I mean, if he wants to come and do it, then he can come and do it. But
Yeah. And I mean, I know that's probably getting a lot of traction right now because it was, we've known for a while this is the final season of Arrow, and he's talked about it at some panels, and they, Comic-Con was last weekend, so of course it gets brought up again, but I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. It'd be fun. That it's just going to be a shitstorm, and I feel like with how StarCast is portraying all of this and doing everything, that the guys are like, yeah, this is fun to troll people with to an extent, but now with how StarCast has done it, they're also like, okay, fuck, this has now gone too far, and could bite us in the ass. And I mean, it's like, it's bad news on every aspect of how this goes. There's no good scenario here.
yeah, I mean, besides Punk coming back.
Even if Punk coming back, they're still going to have some negative shit there. Not as much. I mean, that's probably the most positive situation. But it's still like, okay, cool. They're going to get shit from somewhere. I mean, that's a given anyways, but it's still... We'll see.
I didn't include Hangman's hilarious tweet that he tweeted out where he said something to the degree of... hey, Matt Jackson, that BTE idea that you sent me was really funny, but I don't do business over text or something like that.
Just fucking trolling out the ass.
Just being an asshole.
Hangman's been great, man.
Yeah.
Love
I'm really looking forward to seeing him continue to grow in the company. I saw somebody online complaining that AEW isn't pushing new stars. First of all, they've had fucking 3 shows.
Who the fuck do you think isn't a new star?
Second of all, like, most of these guys are new stars. Like, a lot of the guys that are on the shows are new stars. Especially, like, thinking of Hangman Page as not a new star is outrageous to me. Like, I understand that he's worked in Japan or whatever, but, like...
He was a very minimal talent in Japan.
Well, even regardless of his status in Japan, it was in Japan.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't...
It's not easily watchable.
For the mainstream audience, he's a new guy. For the mainstream audience, Kenny Omega is a new guy.
Kenny, I would say, is Kenny's been established from the...
Established as a myth from the other side of the fucking world.
Sure, but, with the New Japan shows, again, I get it. They're not easy to watch, but the ones that they had in America, Kenny was pushed as a star. Sure. But Hangman was even some of the stuff he did when he was in Japan, he wasn't really pushed really ever.
Right.
But like Hangman, MJF, Luchasaurus, to an extent Pentagon and Phoenix, they're all quote unquote new guys. What the fuck are you talking about?
Right, Darby and Janela and yeah.
Even the Bucks to an extent. Like, these are all...
Then again, even if those weren't prime examples, like, it's been 3 shows.
Yeah.
Like, at what point are people, like, willing to... I guess that's the biggest thing that I've seen online that has irked me is people, like... People expecting it to be finished.
They're expecting it to be, like, WWE level out of the gate.
And in some ways it's better, but in some ways it is worse because they've had 3 shots at it.
Yeah, it's like that's part of the problem with the internet as a whole, but it's also a an aspect of AEW that I am assuming that they knew was coming from the beginning is that people are going to have expectations that are 17 miles high.
Yeah, it's in development. It's
But-
a product in development.
Yeah, and that's the problem is, like, you have to sit back, lower your expectations, and be realistic here. Like, they've had 3 shows. Now, at the same time, you know, you and I bitch about some of the production qualities, but at the same, on the counter side of that, is like, it's been 3 shows. Really, only 2. You can't really count Fyter Fest. That was not their production crew.
Right.
And we've proven that.
Yeah. Being the elite number 162, Escalera de la Muerte, the episode cold opens with the librarian Peter Avalon outside of Creative's office at the front of the line ahead of Sammy G, who is chastising Jack Evans for his smoking habit. Peter enters the office and sits in front of the desk with some difficulty. He jumps feet first into broaching the topic that is on his mind. Peter Avalon does not like being the librarian. Any of it. He can't see in the glasses. He shushes people too much. One minute he's directed to like Leva, the next he's directed not to. Basically every complaint that the internet and us on the show have had about this character
was, like, literally brought up right then in this segment. It was like, oh, whoops, funny.
And this sort of self-awareness from, like, reading people's complaints and creating content aware of it is I think WWE incapable of doing this.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why it's interesting that they've leaned into it with the librarian story specifically has been leaning into it really hard, but some of the other bits they've done on BTE are very aware of how they're perceived, and I kind of like seeing them play with that. Because it means that they're listening. But it is also, from a narrative perspective, really kind of strange.
It's strange, but it's also hilarious and very, very tongue-in-cheek with what they're doing. Is like, we're listening to what people are saying, but people are also like, wait, what are you guys doing? Why are you doing this? Why are you talking about this? So it's like, well, this is what you wanted, isn't it?
Right, it's the sort of self-awareness that the Fyter Fest joke was all kind of based around, right? People expecting the early AEW shows to be a disaster, so they put on a show where the joke was that it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Right.
They should have went further with it, but yeah.
Peter finishes venting his frustrations as the fingers of Trevor and Arthur come into frame. Trevor and Arthur say that the librarian gimmick is gold. They say right up there with the plumber, the garbage man, and the dead guy that doesn't sell and his burnt up brother. Referring assumedly to Dusty Rhodes, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and the Undertaker.
I don't know who the
Kane.
garbage man was. Everybody else was, like, very self-explanatory. I was like, what the fuck are they talking about? What's funny though about this is, like, as soon as Trevor and Arthur started talking, I was watching this on my phone, you know, on speaker.
Yeah.
My dog started growling and barking at the phone at those voices.
The quote continues, "We've had a team of writers spending hours and hours crafting the story of the librarian, and honestly, this is really good shit."
Shots fired again.
Peter lets the room hang in silence and then says, "If this is what you want on your show, then I'm your guy." He grabs his glasses and exits the room. There's sort of some further Vince McMahon digs as we cut to the main titles. One of them sneezes and the other one chastises him for it. You know?
Yeah.
That's sort of
It was
thing.
just fucking hilarious stuff. And the funny part of like you can't see out of the glasses. Like, dude, just pop the lenses out, or go to Walmart, buy a pair of Fakos. It's not like a big deal. This whole thing was hilarious to me. I thought and very, like we said, very tongue-in-cheek, but also very in sync with what's been happening on Twitter and with what certain talent from WWE is saying that is just absolutely delusional.
The good shit line really brought this angle into focus for me.
Yeah.
Because
I would agree with that.
It was, he's like, oh, we've had writers working on this. It's good shit. The idea is that Peter Avalon is being asked to do stupid ass things. They're almost sort of recreating Mox.
Yes, exactly.
Within their own narrative, which is awesome. I think that's like super. I don't know. I think it's probably. The problem is it requires an intellect greater than being a fucking idiot. And it's so easy to make fun of if you don't get it. Like someone like a Jim Cornette, not that I give a fuck about that dude's opinion, is going to be like, oh, blah, 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 because he doesn't get it, right?
I don't even think at this point anymore, I don't think that he doesn't get it. I think he's just so caught up in his own narrative that he
just
has
lost
to...
in his own fart cloud, you know? Yeah. Yeah, but again, with what's going on, with Seth Rollins and stuff like that, and we get to this Mox promo that we're going to talk about at the end of the show. I think it's a really interesting angle for them to do, especially this early, and kind of portraying this guy who's like just creatively stifled in this horrible gimmick that nobody thinks is funny, but creative is like, oh well, this is what we got. It's great. How do you not understand that it's great when everybody hates it? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Out of the titles, we see Marco Stunt sitting on a couch. Mr. Ass accidentally sits on Marco. He then says, holy cow, I didn't see you there. Maybe grow up a little bit or something. Which is like the most horrible fucking thing to say. Yeah. Marco says, yeah, not many people do see me. And then exits visibly upset as we cut to the next scene. Next is a sketch with Mark Quinn and Isaiah Cassidy. They are celebrating their new contracts that they got weeks ago and go for a two-handed high five just as Rick Knox comes around the corner. Knox calls a legal tag and demands that they switch. That's kind of the whole joke here. And they switch places and it's over. A really quick thing. I thought it was pretty funny, and I like that it kind of pokes fun a little bit at how Rick just doesn't give a shit about the tag rope. Or
yeah, right.
It doesn't matter. It's
doesn't give a fuck. It's like he doesn't give a fuck about the tag rope. He also he's always in character, always doing it. It's getting a little worn out.
Yeah, I don't know how many more gags they have in this idea, but. This is definitely one of them that they could do. We now move back to Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt is walking down the hall, facing his phone, when he bumps into Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. A boy and his dinosaur look Marco over, Marco is visibly intimidated. Jungle Boy whispers to Luchasaurus, who turns his gaze to Marco Stunt. He says, hey, being bullied sucks. I've dealt with it for 65 million years. We got your back. Let's go. Now, this is something I agree with your comment on Discord that this should have been played at Fight for the Fallen.
Should have been played before. Either in the BTE right there, either at BT or Fight for the Fallen, either like right before they came out.
Yeah.
On the big screen, something. They had to have something to explain this, because as a person at Fight for the Fallen and watching it on TV, you're sitting there like, what the fuck is he doing here?
Yeah, it was just weird that he showed up and then we get an explanation for it like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem here. This is like where BTE and stuff is like really fallen apart. I mean, it's fine in most things, most aspects, but like this one is like...
We're going to talk more about where BTE is falling apart.
Yeah, but
in
I
a
mean...
minute.
Well, For some things, that's fine, but this one is like, maybe they just couldn't have filmed it earlier because they, for whatever reason, this idea came out late and they didn't have all the guys together to film it, which would make sense. I don't think all three of these guys were at Fyter Fest, and the locker rooms were very
even
clearly
if you did it at Fight for the Fallen, just do it over the giant video screen before you do it. I know it kind of violates this vision of everything happens around the ring or whatever, but like if you need to explain something for the story, just do it. Just fucking do it.
Don't send out Marco Stunt.
Right.
And
wait.
do it at Fire or All Out.
Right. Yeah, I do think it's a really weird way to tell the story. I do think Luchasaurus, though, totally really getting into he did this week on Twitter. There was an article that went up about a city-sized.
It was essentially a Planet Buster sized asteroid that like just missed the planet.
Right, and he tweeted out, "Oh no, not again." It's genius. Some of the stuff he comes up with, I think, is amazing. Next, we have the Dark Order in kind of a weird promo where they basically just recap that winning their match at Fight for the Fallen gets them to All Out, where they can win a buy-in, and they believe go on to win the gold. The creative issues with the Dark Order have become really difficult for me to ignore at this point. I don't think they've found a way to make this gimmick work.
Long?
Yeah, I mean, it has, because I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but I don't think they've found a way to make it work in context at all. I do not know why these characters desire tag team gold beyond the need for every character to desire it. Evil Uno's gear up close looks like shit. It looks cheap.
Ungodly terrible.
It looks like the mask is unfinished, like cut-wise, like having seen and held like quality masks, like it just looks cheap.
It looks like one of the cheap ones that you would buy at like a flea market. And he just put it on.
Stu's gear is in another fucking realm. We used to work with this band all the time where like the lead singer was a cross-dresser, and then the bass player was like a sexy woman, and then the drummer was like this dude who would dress in like a devil costume, and then the bass player was like a guy who would dress like a retired cop, and they were supposed to be like a comedy band, but like it didn't. The Dark Order always reminds me of this group because I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, Evil Uno seems like he's doing a whole different gimmick from what Stu Grayson is doing.
Yeah.
And
completely. And that's like, what are you guys doing?
And I don't think these very pro wrestling promos that they're doing are helping them either. I honestly think that the gimmick would work more for me if we still hadn't heard them speak a word yet. Like if it had all been silence, then at least they would be slightly more intriguing rather than just like kind of weird but kind of not weird, trying to work with all of these characters that are just guys and not these sort of weirder, higher concept characters. This is a concept that would work in Lucha Underground, both because the production values are typically better there, and because it's weird. It's fucking weird there, right? Here, I do not know if there's a way to do it, although we'll talk about some ways I think it could be better later on in the episode.
So here's how this is to me. This is what happens when you have two guys that have been in the wrestling business for 10, 15 years, who have got this mindset that you have to do things this way, and being subjected to a new way of doing things.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do it. They don't fit in with it. They're trying to do what they want to do in this new way, but it's just not working. The gimmick should be really cool, and they've built it up to be really cool, but it's falling so flat.
I think they're awesome in the ring. I think it
I wouldn't even call it that. I need to see another match before I would say awesome in the ring. They were adequate in the ring.
Right. I don't think it's a gimmick that can't work. It's just not working.
It's not. Yeah, it's a gimmick that doesn't work in this company. That's a better way to say it. It's not one that can't work. It's absolutely one that can work in many places.
I think it can even work in this company. I just don't think it is right now.
It feels like it's at the wrong place. Like, I understand why, but it's because they need tag teams. Mm-hmm. So sure, let's do it. But it's also the aspect where this is really weird and very out of place with most of the other things. If you'd done this in 8 months, we could have sold this so much better.
BTE mailbag. A fan asks Hangman if he'll ever get to ask a mailbag question in time. Hangman replies, but that was only 16 hours ago, so no. Next, he's asked if he'll ride a horse to the ring at All Out. Hangman says he's asked about this because he thinks it would be badass, but has been told no on multiple fronts, and he's angry about it.
Dude, don't bring a fucking horse into an arena. Please, God.
Well,
no.
Yeah, there's that. Everybody's fucking flash photography going off and all these people and all the noise and shit like that. But then on top of that, if the horse bucks him and he falls off,
we are fucked.
Riding a horse is really dangerous, especially if there's a lot of like people and shit around. Like, it's just not.
It's dangerous and it's difficult. It's not something that you really want to do in a uncontrollable environment.
Right, and then him coming out on a horse, surrounded by horse handlers and shit. You might as well not even do it because it's lame.
Yeah, if they could do it in a way where it's him coming out on a horse and just him and galloping down, that'd be dope. But
Right.
you can't do that.
Yeah, I don't. There's not a way to reasonably do it. Now, him riding in on a motorcycle that looks like a horse, that's one.
Or like a moped that looks like a horse, just something like. Yeah,
or
we
like
tried
a
to
stick with a horse head at the end of it.
Oh man, that'd be great. That would fit in on BT.
Yeah, they could do that. Finally, a fan asks if any of Hangman's former students have reached out to him now that he's big time in America. Hangman says yes, a handful here and there. However, he never looks at his DMs, and he has them set to follow back. So still, he says that if you're a former student and you want comp tickets, hit him up. Unless you're Deontay from 2013.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Then you can suck it, which I thought was a great thing to throw in.
It was a really funny thing. It was a very, in my opinion, a dumb thing to say. Because now he's just going to get bombarded all the time of people claiming to be former students. Obviously, he knows who his former students were, but it's also like, you just caused yourself this gigantic headache.
Hey, it's people claiming to be Deontay from 2013.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there hasn't been like someone on Twitter who's made up a fake account like, hey, I'm Deontay for 2013. Fuck you, man.
Next, Michael Nakazawa is asked if there will be a mid-card title in AEW. I do not know why Michael Nakazawa is asked this question.
As he sits in Jabali's office. And the reason I know it's Jabali's office is because the chairs said CEO.
It was either his or Kenny's, but likely Jabali's.
Kenny's not going to have a CEO branded gaming chair.
Maybe it was given to him, dude.
Why would he? No, fuck off.
Michael Nakazawa says, yes, I hope so. He is hoping, his words, that AEW will come up with a title that he has some chance of winning. A note to the uninformed, Tony Khan has shot down the idea of a mid-card title publicly more than once. If you're a listener to this show, you know that because we've talked about it. As have the Bucks. But Michael Nakazawa's wording is deliberate here. He doesn't say yes. He says, yes, I hope so. What he should have just said was, I hope so. But he didn't.
English as a second language kind of thing.
Then he says he wants a title that he has a chance of winning. So maybe the mind has changed, and maybe they have a stipulation title in mind.
Or he's so delusional that he creates his own title and thinks that he's defending it every match.
Right, he says he was like maybe like a pre-show title, you know.
I thought that was a good idea.
I would love to see them do a TV title, but I think the idea of them having like an Intercontinental Championship, just like a pointless mid-card title for people who can't hack it on the world title scene, I don't see it happening.
No,
mostly because they've said we're not going to do it.
A TV title would be good. The idea of having a pre-show title is hilarious, and I think that would work. But yeah, if they're going to do anything like this, I think it's definitely going to be something like a TV title or like a stipulation hardcore belt.
Yeah, something that is about a different kind of wrestling and not. Or has some sort of wacky rule to it, you know, and that's why you go after that title and not just a B title, basically. To close the show, the Bucks head out to a clay court for a promo on the Lucha Brothers. It looks like they had one camera, so they shot the promo multiple times to get their multiple angles, which is really frustrating, especially considering they like start losing light between the takes. So
This is the kind of thing that you do indoors.
Yeah, or you start in the middle of the day, not as you're going into twilight. This has nothing to do with the content. It's just like production nerd stuff. The Bucks accept the Lucha Brothers challenge for a ladder match at All Out. They remind us that they actually have a history with ladders, perhaps greater and more notable than the Lucha Brothers. Matt says on August 31, they will find out if it really is Cerro Miedo or Cerro Huevos. He then admits that he needed Google Translate for that one, and Nick goes, "Oh, really? I figured because I don't know any Spanish at all." Matt says, to truly know your enemy, you must become your enemy. The camera zooms in and then zooms out. Matt and Nick are wearing the Lucha Brothers masks. Then we see the title card, Lucha Brothers versus Young Bucks at All Out, Escalera de la Muerte for the AAA World Tag Team Championships. That's the new information, is that the AAA tag titles will be on the line again. Other than that, it's really just kind of like a cool Spanish name for the ladder match that they're doing.
Essentially, yeah, because like I ended up Googling it. It's like, that doesn't mean ladder match, but okay. Ladder
of the Dead.
It's like Rising to Death.
Yeah.
Weird. It's like a weird translation. I'm fine with the AAA tag titles being on the line. What's going to piss me off, and I know what's going to happen, is we're going to get a week from All Out, and AAA is going to announce a ladder match with the AAA, with the titles on the line. So it's like, okay, cool. Bucks are winning again. I already know it. I've been looking forward to this. Thanks a lot, you pieces of shit.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
I understand why the belts are on the line, and they needed a justifying this and a reason. Not, this can't just be a grudge match. Yeah. And that's fine. They need to step in and like seriously tell AAA, don't fuck us on this.
Here's my big thing. I wrote 2 paragraphs on it. It's kind of my whole thing about this episode is woof.
That's separating out of like everything that was wrong with BTE, and I'm with you on there. We do need to talk about that, but like just this, like they seriously need to tell AAA, do not fuck us on this.
I agree. I don't think that they will.
If AAA does it again and like literally repeats the same match word for word, there needs to be a conversation taking place.
I agree. I think there already should have been a conversation taking place because it's been kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
I want to talk about BTE, though.
Let's talk about BTE because I understand your points, and I kind of agree with you.
This is a fine idea that is once again totally let down by production. I think BTE works great when it's comedy sketches that push characters along and it doesn't mean anything and it's playful and all that shit. I don't think it works for promos at all because it looks like shit. I wish they would swallow their pride and just let the Road 2 team handle the important stuff, or a different actual production team. Doesn't matter to me.
Or just buy a goddamn camera.
Like, BTE looks like what it is. It's a cruddy YouTube show shot on phones. And it's great because it allows them to get fun sketches from a roster that is all over the world. And it's great for what it's good at. It works. But for actual promos, for actual AEW matches, it's a fucking joke. Like, it just is.
Here's the thing. Here's my counterpoint to that. I agree with you. I do agree with you. They can keep the show being cruddy, just a crappy YouTube show shot on phones.
Yeah.
When it's literally Matt and Nick filming a promo that they know they're going to do, go get a fucking camera.
Well,
I understand that you can't expect all of the guys and all over the place to be carrying a production level camera, not even a production level, but a good camera with them that they need to shoot some of this stuff on their phones.
Yes, I agree.
But Matt and Nick should have a good camera. They should not be shooting on their phone. The Dark Order promo should have been shot on a camera, not on a phone. They were clearly in Jacksonville. There was no reason for it.
Well, it's a tone thing, too. I think that the serious stuff should be on Road 2 shot with actual cameras. I think that the silly shit that's filmed on phones and shit like that, put it on Being the Elite. That's fine. But if you're trying to hype the tag team main event for the fucking All Out,
your tentpole event,
yeah, like, it should be shot on a real fucking camera. Like, just do it. It's like, I want to see BTE be that product where do what it's good at, but like accentuate the positive and hide the negative. You're a multi-million-dollar company. Stop shooting promos on your fucking phones. Like, just stop. It's stopped being cute. I don't think it's an indie thing anymore. It just makes it seem like you don't care about making your product better.
Yeah, and that's the confusing part of to me is like, dude, you two guys, I understand you've been working in the indies and you have money, okay? Mm-hmm. Go to fucking Best Buy, spend $500. You can get a camera that you can use to shoot the stuff that you're in for things like this for under $500.
Get a DSLR and a mic. Spend $800. Or make a show that doesn't look like trash.
Just tell Tony, like, hey, can we get a single camera production setup for Matt and Nick? It's only going to be used by us. We will be taking care of it. And Tony will say, okay, sure, write it off. Here's the company card.
It seems like a little thing to complain about, but like, you watch this shit get broken out and people being like, this is the company that's going to fight WWE with this, with these promos that they look Bush League. They look terrible because they're not taking the production of them seriously. Meanwhile, you got Cody over here with his production team putting out content that looks legit, that looks fucking real. And it's so weird. And they wear it like a badge of honor. Like, haha, we don't need all that fancy equipment to make a good show, but the show's not good.
Yeah, and it's very similar to the thing I was saying about the Dark Order. Is like, you're going to have to break Matt and Nick of this idea that, oh, we're indie, we can shoot things on our phones and people will love it. Ha 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 ha. It's like, okay, Beavis and Butthead, you're in a multi-million-dollar company. You are going head-to-head against a billion-dollar company. You're on a national network once a week. Fucking stop.
I just think it's a shame because I think the Dark Order deserve something real, but they haven't gotten it. It's all been BTE stuff. Because Matt and Nick handle the tags division. I get that. Pentagon and Phoenix, like, oh my God, I want to see Road 2s where they've got stuff on there, because they're amazing, and I'm sure with great production values they could do something really cool looking and stuff like that, but they're not, because they're feuding with the Bucks and they're a tag team, so they're on the fucking BTE, and they're.
I think it's very. I don't. The way I see it, and this could be totally wrong, but I think it is coming to a head, because I think everyone involved realizes that BTE is coming to an end because of what's about with TV coming through. There's not going to be time for this anymore. Even though, TV, the schedule that has been laid out for AEW is still very minimal.
Yeah.
There's not going to be time for them to do this shit anymore. So I think that's partly why they're still doing it, and I really don't foresee Matt and Nick having as much control over promos and filming promos going forward.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just like, this is the swan song. We're not going to be able to do this in 6 months, so let's just let them do it. I do agree with you. I think that all promos should be pushed through a Road 2. That's not always the case due to scheduling conflicts and such and so forth, and locations. But yeah, Pentagon and Phoenix, Matt and Nick, all these guys, they need to be doing their promos and stuff that is leading to your tentpole event in a production environment, or just with the equipment. If you're doing videos for Fight for the Fallen or Fighter Fest level events, fuck it. Do them on cell phones. It doesn't really matter. This is a B event.
Yeah, I guess. Not ideal, but sure, if that's what you have to do to make the production happen. But I just think it's just the novelty of it for me, that it's done on their phones and stuff like that, is more.
It's not. It's like you said. This isn't funny anymore. When you guys were doing it for All In, sure,
right,
understandable. You're trying to save as much money as you possibly can so that you can put on the best event that you can, because if this fails, you're out a lot of money. Mm-hmm. You have the backing of a billionaire.
Yeah.
Who would literally tell you, cool guys, go buy a camera. Here's the company card. Write it off.
Luke Perry's son, Jack, 22, honors late dad before his last movie premiere. I included this here. It's not entirely related, but it is kind of an important moment in Jungle Boy's life that I think should be talked about. This comes to us from Closer Weekly. No author listed, just editorial team credited. In a touching tribute, Jack Perry honored his late father, Luke Perry, on Instagram. The video was posted Monday, July 22nd, just days before the world premiere of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the last movie the late actor was featured in before he passed. In the clip, the professional wrestler was filmed walking up to a billboard of his father in character. Quote, Luke Perry is Scott, end quote, is written across the sign. You then see Jack, 22, climb up to the billboard and sit alongside his father as he looks down at his dad and then smiles into the camera. Quote, big premiere tonight. He deserved this, and I'm very proud of it. The athlete captioned the video hours before the Hollywood premiere. A stud in life and forever after. The best of the best. Love you forever. The late actor died on March 4th after suffering a massive stroke at age 52. Luke was best known for his role as Dylan McKay in the 90s hit TV show Beverly Hills 90210, but his most recent TV role was Fred Andrews on Riverdale. The CW aired the last episode he filmed before his passing back in April. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the last movie Luke filmed before his death. The Hollywood premiere on Monday, July 22nd, will definitely be emotional for those who were close to him. Both of his children, Jack and Sophie, 19, have been very vocal on social media about their grief. Quote, he was a lot of things to a lot of people. To me, he was always dad. He loved and supported me in everything and inspired me to be the best I could possibly be. I've learned so much from you, and my heart is broken thinking about everything you won't be here for. I'll miss you every day that I walk on this earth. I'll do whatever I can to carry on your legacy and make you proud. I love you, Dad. Luke will be forever missed. important to note here that Jungle Boy credits his father with pushing him to train to wrestle. That Luke Perry was very supportive of Jack and was at a whole bunch of wrestling events supporting his son as he was getting into the business. It's, this last film coming out is bringing up a lot of things about what happened back in March for a lot of people. But I figured with this story coming out this week, it was important to recognize this as this man's last work, and a man who, without him in so many ways, and not just literal ways, we wouldn't have Jungle Boys.
Yeah, and as well as that, like, there's a lot of aspects of wrestling that were directly pulled from how Beverly Hills 90210 changed the television landscape. So, he's a very influential guy. He died way, way, way too young.
Yeah.
No one should die in their early 50s like that. It's so sad. Mm-hmm. Flip side of that, it's very nice to hear about how much he supported Jungle Boy and supporting the dream that, to most parents is stupid.
Right.
That's something a lot of people need to start realizing now, as like, people my age and grew up around my time period are having kids now. It's like, even if you think your kid's dream is stupid, that's their dream. Let them live it. Support them as much as you can. That's, if you, the easiest way to say is, like, if someone is passionate about something, then they will succeed so much easier because that's something that they love. And then they will never regret a time in their life where they weren't doing what they loved or missed out on doing what they love. So, just support your family, support your friends. Unless they want to rob banks, then don't support them.
I mean, success is one thing. I think the important takeaway from this story for me is that there's only ever so much time,
Yeah.
And
take advantage of the time you have.
And, success or whatever, like, chase your passions. Like, spend your time on the things that you like to do. Because...
hey, that's why we do this dumb show.
You don't know how much time you have, and especially with him. Okay, so let's talk about the big news this week. I couldn't find an article about this that wasn't like 3/4 talking about fucking WWE.
It's honestly, it makes sense. It's even the industry articles that we're talking about it, they have to reference WWE to put it into perspective
I understand
people.
Referencing WWE, 3 whole fucking paragraphs in the article about WWE is like, okay, guys.
I know, I agree. But,
come on.
Whatever.
So I just wrote all this info myself, which is why the wording is going to be different than when I typically read things. Earlier this week, AEW and Select Talents promoted a new Twitter Instagram handle at AEW on TNT, teasing a, quote, big announcement soon, end quote. The following day, AEW on TNT dropped a trailer for the upcoming show and a whole mess of details. The trailer was mostly cuts from the past 3 shows in slow-mo and shit. It's fucking...
So, stop you. They did this on Monday.
Yeah.
And then kept building it all day Tuesday. All day Monday, all day Tuesday. And then they were like, oh, yeah, be around at 11 a.m. on Wednesday.
Right. I'm glad you got more specific timetabling than I did. The trailer is like mostly like slow-mo cuts. It's an awesome trailer. Perhaps the biggest takeaway is that the series seems to be simply titled All Elite Wrestling, which I think is super wise. It's simplified branding. There's no hokey fucking Wednesday Night Dynamite that everyone was expecting because they trademarked it.
I'm sure. I agree they didn't need to call it some like named TV show, but they should have put a subtitle.
See, I really don't think I don't think it needs it, because like this is All Elite Wrestling. Like that's where it's going to be.
Fair.
You want to see it? That's where it is. I understand people being like, well, what are they going to say when they refer to the show? Like they're not going to say last week on Dynamite. They can just say last week on TNT.
Yeah,
right?
or on last week's show, things like that. I
Right.
agree. It's just, the small things. Like, I personally would have preferred they had a subtitle there, but I get it.
Yeah. I think it's brave of them because I understand being like, well, it's got to have, a show title, right? Like, but I think it's really smart of them to just be like, nope, this is All Elite Wrestling. This is the show. We have learned that the first televised live event will take place at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. on the 2nd of October. The long-rumored start date that happens just a week after WWE SmackDown moves to Fox. This puts the AEW time slot on Wednesdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., which is a great slot as it keeps it in line with TNT's other sports content, NBA being on Thursday nights.
As well as that's the prime time hours. It's 8 to 10. That's prime time. It's keeping
It's
you.
also like a better TV night than Monday is.
Yes. As well as you're keeping it in line where, younger audience members can say, hey, do you mind if I stay up till 10 to finish watching this? And parents are like, okay, cool, that's fine. It's not, it goes off at 11:09 maybe.
Right. Tickets are on sale today as you're listening to this, and more dates are likely to be announced
I want to go so bad, dude. I thought about it so much.
the same day. Yeah.
It's on my fucking birthday.
Dude.
I can't do it. I can't. I want to, but it's like, no, I can't do it.
Traveled enough already.
It's in the middle of the week. That's multiple days off.
In the middle of the fucking week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Two interesting notes. First, the Capital One Arena will be the biggest venue that the company has ever run, totaling nearly 20,000 seats. It's a big gamble, but hopefully a great card and the draw of a historic evening can sell some stubs. Second, Wednesday night time slot means that they pretty much have to shoot an episode of All Elite Wrestling aboard the Jericho Cruise.
Yeah.
Speaking of... somebody tweeted at Jericho this week, hey, Jericho, any chance we get this on Fight or BR Live? I'd love to watch this cruise insanity. And Jericho's response was, we are going to do something even better. So very likely that we get an episode aboard the Jericho cruise. A lot of people are like, logistically, how would they do that? The answer is satellites.
It's not hard.
Right.
When they would be doing this, they would be stopping at an island. This doesn't be the ship moving kind of thing.
Right.
I'm fine with this. I would rather they record an episode for the Jericho cruise and then release it. But that's my personal preference, 100%.
Why is that?
Because it's kind of like one of those things where number one, I don't know where the cruise is, so you have to ignore that because. If the cruise is like, say, LA to Cancun, it's going to be at a very strange time slot to be live. So there's things like that play into it. Weather does play into this. This is going to be another outdoor thing. It's going to be outdoors in a tropical environment.
Right.
So things like that, I wish that they would just record something. If something doesn't work, doesn't look good, you don't have to worry about if it fucking rains. Kind of thing, but
we also don't know what the environment if this will be outside or what the
exactly. There's just too many, that's why in my personal opinion, there's too many variables in place of why I would just prefer this to be a pre-record. Same as like when WWE goes overseas, they pre-record it.
Maybe it will. We don't know that it won't be.
Exactly. That just looking at what we know now and how they've said that all the events will be live. For TV, that's just why I'm assuming that it's probably going to be a live event. So it's just my personal preference. I think they should just record this, tell everybody's like, hey, we're on the Jericho cruise. This is a recorded episode. It's still new content because no one's seen it, but we taped this 6 hours ago.
Either way, I think it's a really cool fucking setting for an episode.
It could be really, really fun and really cool, but
And I'd love to see them do more sort of non-traditional venues like this. do stuff at the fucking the motorcycle rally like they used to, and shit
At
like
Sturgis?
that, right?
That'd
Like,
be dope, dude.
yeah, just do it in weird places. Have the show take place in weird places.
Take advantage of what WCW used to do.
Right.
They used to go to spring break and put on Nitro. They used to go to Sturgis and do a pay-per-view. Do weird shit. It's worth it because you bring in other audiences. Don't do what WCW did and make it free. That is
when
where
you're
they fucked
done
up.
listening to this podcast, if you're listening at home, go and listen to MJF on Talk is Jericho. An entertaining episode, not MJF's best stuff necessarily the whole time, but it was great. Also important that Dustin Rhodes will be appearing at Dragon Con the same weekend as All Out.
Yep.
If you're going to be there, he's going to be there supposedly all 3 days. I'm going to let Jonathan take it away because he knows more about all
Yeah,
this.
so Dragon Con is Thursday to Monday in Atlanta. It's an annual conference, a sci-fi conference. I've always had a wrestling event rather. It's always been like Friday nights. First night of the con, they do wrestling for 2 hours, and it's indie wrestling. It's a fun time. It's nerd-themed indie wrestling. The past few years, they have been inviting more wrestling people. Like last year, it was supposed to be Ric Flair. That turned into Kane. Things like that, where they have one really big wrestling name to, kind of chairman the wrestling event. And
sure. As wrestling has become more and more accepted by geek culture.
Yeah, it's
right?
not just the random years when you'd go to Dragon Con and walking through the Walk of Fame area and there's the Iron Sheik kind of thing. This is like we're looking at like big wrestling guys now. It's cool. It's I can honestly say I would 99% say Dustin will not be at All Out because he has to be present at Dragon Con all 4 days because the way they do things is if you are not going to be present the entire time, they list it in the announcement that so-and-so will only be appearing Monday or Tuesday or Saturday, Sunday, things like that. So
that people don't buy passes for 1 day and then he's not there.
Correct, because you can buy day passes. And especially with the much bigger stars like David Tennant is coming this year. Like if he was only going to be there on Friday, they would say Friday only. Yeah. Make sure you buy Friday pass. So there's that. I mean, at the same time, Chicago to Atlanta is a short flight. It's possible he could fulfill his panel requirements, and I know the Walk of Fame usually closes at like 6 or 7 because the celebrities typically go party with the nerds. It's kind of great. Right. That's a fun time of Dragon Con. So he could hop in a plane and be in Chicago and be at All Out. It's very possible.
Private plane especially, A private plane especially.
Yeah, so that's entirely possible. I wouldn't count on it. So if you're going to Dragon Con because you can't make it to All Out, definitely go see Dustin. We talked about it a little bit in Discord this week of how it's great for Dragon Con and great for AEW because now an AEW representative is there. I shit on your brother a little bit of like that's a bonus feature that wasn't intended.
Right.
Especially if you read the Dragon Con announcement is that Dustin Rhodes, formerly known as Goldust, doesn't mention AEW at all because that's not where people know him from.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely, Dustin will probably have some AEW photos and maybe some shirts available, but like this is...
Sure, it's not... Yeah, Anthony was like, oh, it's kind of like a divide and conquer thing for them. I really don't think that's the case.
It's not at all.
I don't... It's just that I don't think... It's not to throw any shade at Dragon Con, I just don't think they give a fuck that much.
They don't. Like, there may be a panel during the weekend where Dustin talks about AEW, but that is not the intended result. It's like, we want a wrestler. Dustin's local.
Like not to shit on Dragon Con, but it's not Comic-Con or something like that.
Not
San Diego Comic-Con, where you're like, oh yeah, we want to have representatives or whatever. No, I think the biggest reason why he's there is because they didn't have anything necessarily for him at All Out. He could have made a lot of money doing it, and he lives in Atlanta.
Yes, and he's gonna make a lot more money at Dragon Con than he would at Starcast.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is like the wrestlers, even the more famous guys that they've been inviting to Dragon Con, are still very much local guys. You know, Flair lives in Atlanta. Kane is in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is about an hour and a half away. They're not pulling, you know, like Undertaker.
Right.
So it's that kind of a level there. Is like, we want a local guy because we don't really want to pay too much of travel expenses, in addition to travel, you know, appearance fees, so forth. But let's get a wrestling guy because people like wrestling.
The Road to All Out #2. This episode opens in the same VIP box from last week, just shot at a different angle.
Yeah, it's because it's probably Shad's box.
It's shot at the same time.
No, like it's Shad Khan's box.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, probably. Tully Blanchard explains that being called a good hand is being called a faithful tag-along. Tully says that it was Sean who reached out to him over the phone asking for career advice. And Tully said if you take down one of the roads, that'll put you at the top in anyone's book. Tully insists that this has nothing to do with any grudge he may have against the Rhodes. Tully also refers on more than one occasion in this promo to a master plan and says that this is just the first step before ending the interview promptly. I believe in Tully as a manager, and I think managers alongside tag team wrestling and masked stars is an area where AEW could really thrive since Vince has apparently completely forgot about them.
There was some talk about that on Reddit this week, you know, talking about Paul Ellering, where he was appearing with like Authors of Pain, but like they didn't really, you know, utilize him.
He was appearing with Authors of Pain, and then when they went up to the main roster, Vince like cut it. Vince was like, I don't want it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like that. Yes, that is true. But I meant more of like, even when he was there, he wasn't doing much.
Yeah, but at least Triple H was using him to some capacity.
Yeah, he was using him to
wasn't just like get the fuck out of
yes.
here. Interesting to note that Conrad Thompson owns the trademark for the Four Horsemen as it pertains to use in wrestling. Next, we're backstage at Fight for the Fallen. A correspondent stops Darby Allin on the way back to the locker room after he, Janela, and Havoc lost to Spears, MJF, and Sammy G. Havoc is the first to catch up with Allin, but Janela isn't far behind, and a fist fight between the trio breaks out. It's a good-looking fight that needs to be pulled apart by officials and producers. Janela, straddling Havoc, getting separated by officials, has the perfect heartbreaking line where he says, "What happened? I'm 0-2. I'm 0-2, you fucking asshole. I waited 14 years for this contract." Which for me was just like, oh man.
Yeah, it was one of those things like, whoa, real feels bad here right now. Like, damn, dude. Like,
yeah, like kind of too effective for like instantly made me want nobody but Janela to win this match.
Yeah, it really did. It was really like a good line, but it's also like, fuck, dude.
I really just felt his frustration and his heartache, and he did it. I part of it was the line, part of it was his delivery. Like, I think he did a really excellent job with it. And it really made me, like, when they talk about wins and losses mattering, like, this is the best case scenario, is that you really feel people being I tried.
Yeah.
You know? And now my career is going to be affected because I lost this match. And that, I think that was so great to see from Janela. I think he did an awesome job. And now if anybody, I know he's probably going to lose this match because Darby Allin's in it. And it's upsetting because I think he sucks.
He's gonna lose this match because that piece of shit Darby's in it, man.
It's not like I don't think he's a piece of shit. I just think he's melodramatic.
I agree, but that was like just the best way to say that. Just a piece of shit.
We then see the match announcement: Janela versus Allin versus Havoc, which I think will be a great three-way match at All Out. I think all three of them are those guys really going at it. Havoc kind of seems like the odd man out here just because he's so much older than the other two guys. But I think they all have this sort of, again, people were calling him Team I Hate My Body, right? This sort of like wild man, will do anything in the ring sort of thing to it. And I hope that this match will deliver on some sort of crazy spot. Somebody jumping off something big, I think.
Staple gun.
No, the more they tease the staple gun, the more they're not going to do it, apparently.
Fair
they're
enough.
only going to do it when they're not showing it on camera, I guess. Now we're back in the control center, but Shivani is not. Chris Van Vliet has taken over, and I don't hate it.
I don't know if they may be rotating through this.
Yeah, maybe. Although a lot of deal was made about Shivani the other week.
Yeah, so it's interesting on both sides of this. Like, oh, cool, we're just gonna rotate through who could be correspondents for AEW, but also like, oh yeah, you guys got shit on.
Shivani apparently had a deal with MLW or something like that, and they were upset that he'd appeared on the show or whatever.
Which is like, hey, Court, get your panties out of a wad.
Hey, Court, you don't have a business anymore.
Essentially, dude. He's
like,
he thinks he's gonna keep going, but man, he's done.
I like MLW a lot, and I do not want to see them go out of business. But for the last time, if you were trying to run a mid-level wrestling competitor, you're done. It's over. Like that business just isn't going to exist anymore. When you have $2 billion companies feuding in America, like, people just aren't going to have time for you. And that's a shame that we've gone from a business that supported WWE and all these sort of smaller companies, but like, they're Lucha Underground now, and Impact and ROH and all those companies that like nobody gives a shit about anymore. Which is a shame, because it was nice having a lot of other voices, but now at least we have another mainstream voice, and that's the trade that I think you make for that.
Yep. He should still fucking make his shit podcast.
He does.
I can listen to all of the interviews as podcasts.
Yes.
Okay, then I retract my bitching, but it's still
only because I only say this because people have come on to the Discord and said, "Yo, he does do that."
Okay,
more than
then
once.
fucking advertise it, you piece of shit. Don't just be like, "Oh yeah, you have to watch the YouTube videos. That's the only way to get my content." Blah 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 blah. Like, fuck off, dude. YouTube's a shitty platform. There's no monetization for the shit you're doing. Because
I will say, you can put on a YouTube video and ignore the video portion. Like, you can just listen to it.
Not when you're at work.
Okay. I guess I buy that.
It's like on your phone, the screen will turn off at some point.
Sure.
And unless you're paying for YouTube Red, which I'm not going to.
YouTube Bread.
I would. Nice. Well done. Points for you.
Yeah, the Chris Van Vliet show, I guess, is what it is on podcast services. He takes us to an exclusive interview with Mox. It's not an interview, it's a pre-tape, but whatever. Mox says, "I only know one speed. I put my foot on the gas pedal and I press it to the floor. I love wrestling and I do it every day, 24/7. For a while, that got taken away from me. I'm never going to let it get taken away again." At this point, Kenny Omega is a myth. He's lore. He's legend. He's this idea. The legend of Kenny Omega, the greatest wrestler that ever lived. The Rembrandt, the Van Gogh of professional wrestling, making beautiful, elegant ballet, 60-minute classics in Japan. And you know, I'm hitting people in the face with cream pies and stuff on TV.
I can't believe you fucking said that, dude.
And his delivery on all this stuff. Oh, man. Whether or not I buy the legend of Kenny Omega, believe me, brother, I'm taking it very, very seriously. That's why I'm going all over Japan, learning all your styles, learning all your tricks of the trade, learning everything about who you are and what you do, where you come from. Kenny Omega, the myth, seems to think I'm some kind of joke. Well, we're going to be in the ring together, and I assure you it's not going to be the least bit funny when I break your fucking jaw. This isn't a fucking video game, dude. You only get one life. I'm trying to hurt you. I'm trying to injure you. I'm going to. Man, just masterclass.
Yeah, epic promo. Even more so after with the one they released this morning from post G1.
Yeah.
Where I don't know who he's with. He's with I guess the New Japan guy that he's taken on as his like child. People were joking about that.
The young lion that he's carrying around.
Yeah. He's standing there and he's like, okay, hey man, you do the promo. I'm just gonna stand here and give a middle finger to the world the whole time. And like they keep going. It was so funny just of him doing that. It's just like. Just sweaty as a motherfucker and just, double birds. Standing there like, okay, go, do the promo. And then starts talking again over and he's like, but okay, do the promo.
I love that he's found a super smart way to justify the G1.
Yeah.
As a character, right? This idea that he's doing it because he doesn't have experience in Japan, and that's where Kenny Omega comes from, so he's going to go fight all of those people. I think that's great. The cream pies in the face thing people took as being a payoff to the Kevin Owens angle, and maybe that's what he was trying to do, but I think it was more just the idea is that he was trying to paint WWE as a stupid cartoon, which it is.
It's both. It's the stupid cartoons as well as he actually fucking had to do that. It was like a Thanksgiving episode or something, but there's Kevin Owens there throwing whipped cream pies at people. I'm not saying the other one because that has other way different connotation.
It's a dirty sex thing.
Yeah,
anyway.
that you can't do on someone's face.
Right. Sadly. It's as much delivery as it is writing, and I think he's so good at it. So shockingly good at it.
He really is, man. He's this is one of the guys where it really shows that when you let him run wild and not have a script and 16 people telling you, hey, don't say that, hey, don't say that, hey, don't say that, that he can do amazing things.
Yeah, to think that this guy was being force-fed is like, wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that's how it is, right? They're just not examined over there on a case-by-case basis. Everybody gets slop. So yeah, I mean, kind of huge week. We've kind of finally learned the details of the show, what that's going to be, the shape that's going to be. I guess the only thing I'd like to reveal about our plans in the future is that our time slot is going to change. We're not going to remain a Monday show if the television product is on Wednesday. What that means for us going forward, I'm not at liberty to discuss right now, but it does mean that if you like the Monday time slot, it might be there after pay-per-views, but for the most part, that's not when we're going to release the show.
Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to say it. It's like the way we're understanding how AEW pay-per-view side is going to work is there's going to be 4 a year.
Right.
So on those weeks, then yeah, the episodes will come out on Monday. And it's also going to be just like short turnaround time for us because we're going to be recording one on the weekend and then again during the week. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good way to say it. I have seen some things reporting about the number of shows that AEW plans to do a year. Mm-hmm. I think it's like 100 to 120 realm, which is...
Tony went on Stone Cold's podcast and said he would like to get in a rhythm of doing 100 to 120 a year.
Yeah, so...
52 episodes on television.
I'm going to say 50 television.
I don't think they'll skip weeks. WWE doesn't skip weeks.
I think they'll skip Christmas week.
Maybe if Christmas falls close enough to that.
Okay, so we'll say let's cut it in the middle. Say 51 because I do think that as much as they've talked about how family oriented they are,
yep,
they will cut Christmas week.
I can see.
Maybe Thanksgiving week as well, but that's maybe. Just because, yeah, they're gonna do 51 shows for TV, 4 pay-per-views, so that's 55. So if you factor in, okay, he wants to do it between 100 and 120, that's about one extra show a week, which I've read will be like a Saturday night house show, which is fine. That's great. And that's, I saw Brandy has said on Twitter that no one will be driving between venues because of how their scheduling is going to work. They are not going to be asking anyone to be driving tired after a show to some random city for the next event.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. I mean, the reason why that wouldn't be the case is because it's very unlikely they would have to, because they're doing a show on Wednesday and then a show on Saturday.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But that's
They're
all.
not
That's what I
doing
mean. Like, if they
back-to-back
stick to
shows,
that
so.
twice a week schedule, which I think that they absolutely should.
Right.
There you go. I also saw that they are going to be at least for the house show portion, the once a week. That will have a rotating set of talent so that people have time off and resting time. I'm sure TV will work that way as well.
Yeah, man. I definitely think it's the right plan. Tony's right. There's really no reason to be running a house show on a Thursday.
No.
Like,
or Monday, or no. There's no reason why your talent should be on the road 6 days a week.
Right, because you're wearing down your talent and all that stuff, but also, like, you're not going to draw a big house on a fucking Monday or a Thursday or something like that. So, like, don't even fucking bother.
No, I mean,
like, just to keep the hamster wheel going, you know, and you'll make a little bit of money once you factor in merch and all that shit. Like, you'll do all right, but, like, it's just, if you don't need to do it, then don't fucking do it, because you're just adding risk and wear and tear to your athletes.
And like when you really think about it, it's like, are those house shows that are running on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, are they really making you money, or are they losing money from the, rental cost of the arena?
Sure, but at some point where you have as many trucks on the road as they do, if you're running 4 shows, then you should be running 5 shows, because to keep the things moving.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but it's also just like, when you just like, you can't really be like with these crowds. You're not making money.
No.
I mean, you may in the summertime when it's more accessible.
I mean, we know that about the house show business, though. The numbers we've gotten from the house show business, like,
it's ass.
They do all right. I mean, like
they're.
But if that was the only thing they were doing as a business, they would, especially now that, like, even the TV shows, like, aren't drawing enough people. So, and I honestly think they have this number in mind, this number that's been floating around. Experts are saying 500,000 for the first broadcast on TNT. I wouldn't be surprised if they do significantly better than that. But we'll see.
Tuesday night, beginning of October, they're hyping it up.
Wednesday night, beginning of October.
Tuesday, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can see them doing better than that
for AEW.
At least that. I mean, the thing is gonna be a kicker is how bad the drop off is.
Sure. I mean, and that's gonna be there though, But I think the momentum behind them, especially after All Out, will be.
You'll have 6 weeks again.
Yeah, if they program it right, I think they can pop a really big number. I don't think they're going to hit 3 million or anything like that, but
hey, it might.
Hey, that would be great, because that would be bigger than Raw's average for the last like fucking 3 years.
Yep.
So.
We don't know. We'll see.
I mean.
I think
the fact of the matter is, when it comes to comparing these two companies, it's not going to be a fair comparison in the future anyway, because SmackDown's going to be on fucking Fox, so it's just going to do more impressive looking numbers.
No, there will be a way of comparison, and
okay.
That's because WWE is already quote unquote leaking out their counter programming plan, and what they plan to counter program with will be a more accurate comparison. What they're planning to do is seemingly combine 205 Live with NXT for a Wednesday night show and putting that on like Fox Sports 1 or something.
Oh, dumb.
Agreed.
It's also important to note for WWE Network subscribers, they revamped their app this weekend, and people think it's because they give a shit about the UI, but it's not. It's so that they can introduce tiers. And because if you go on there and you don't have a subscription, they all have little locks in the corner, as if they could have not locks in the corner for certain content. So,
yeah, tiers are coming.
Tiers are coming.
So it's gonna be It's gonna be very interesting of how, with especially thinking about WWE Network. There's a lot of people that are subscribers,
Yeah.
for NXT only, and
Which is funny because you can get it on Hulu.
you can get on Hulu, but you can't get takeovers.
Yes, you can. They go up on Hulu.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. But I mean, and I would say the majority of the public is not aware of that.
Because WWE doesn't want you to
No,
be aware
but
of it.
there's a lot of people that look at like, oh yeah, I'm subscribed to this for $10 a month for NXT and the takeovers, and then I get the other pay-per-views as a bonus. That will not be the case. So
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what they do with that. Not that I give a shit because I'm not
I'm
subscribed.
not subscribed either. The thing that's like another people are going to be is going to be very interesting is that if anyone thinks that if NXT/205 Live goes on to actual television and they don't think Vince will now be sitting in on everything to do with NXT, they are sadly mistaken.
Yeah. Well, it's been a blast getting to talk about AEW once again this week. YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and podcast services everywhere. Subscribe, review, give us 5 stars, just like Meltzer. It makes us feel so sweet. Jonathan, how sweet?
Too sweet, buddy.
Too sweet. Facebook.com/Seeing the Elite, at Twitter at Seeing the Elite, what the fuck ever. tinyurl.com/Seeing the Elite. Get invited to our Discord server. I think that's pretty much going to do it for us. Jonathan, do you have anything more for these people?
Yeah, if all these people were tagging you on Discord about the Van Vliet thing being on podcasts, what the fuck, guys? I was the one bitching about that. You're all on my shit list now.
Yeah,
all of you.
Everybody, Jonathan Davis versus the world.
Bring it on. Only Discord, though. The rest of the people that aren't on Discord, you get a free pass.
I did go and see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I will not state my review here where we've talked about it in Discord. I will say Jungle Boy served as a production assistant on the movie and supposedly shows up at some point.
Oh, yeah, I think he's one of the Manson family.
For a cameo. Yeah. But I didn't notice him in the movie. Sadly, when I was there, mostly because I didn't know to look for it until after I got out.
And then you're like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. But I would recommend going to see it if you're into that sort of thing. Other than that, I think that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much once again for joining us on another episode of Seeing the Elite. All Out just around the corner, and we'll be back. Until then, go out and change the world.